pen and fill the paper with the message that it wants to send.
So continuing my conversation with Kristin L. Gray, the author of 4 books for young readers, including the Amelia Six, which is an Amelia Earhart mystery novel for middle grade readers. I want to talk to you more about writing for young people. So you mentioned in the first part of our interview how it was about an 8-year journey for you from the time that you decided you were going to write to being published. So how did you hone your craft? What resources did you tap into to go from aspiring writer to author?
Sure. Basically, I went to my library and I read all the new books as they put them out, as many as I could. I would go to, it's good to read the classics, but it's also important to read, the new market, so you know what publishers are looking for, what's relevant to kids today. I think so many times we can go online and someone asks for a book rec. Well, it's all the recommendations that people throw out there are from 30, 40, 50 years ago. And there's a place for those, but it's so important to stay relevant, to what our kids are experiencing today. I joined SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. I started going to local and regional conferences, networking with other writers, meeting agents and editors. I met my own agent. I flew out to Big Sur, California. They had a writing workshop that they were hosting there, and I just ended up on a round table, and I had exactly 8 pages of this written and with me, and she waited an entire year for me to finish drafting it, and then we decided to work together, which that was amazing, an amazing moment. But there are ways out there. At least we have Google now. You can Google how to be a children's writer or how to be a writer. I'm sure you have people that write for adults too. There's a big, because I'm in South Midwest, there's a big annual conference in Dallas, Fort Worth every year that's DFW Con, I believe, is really respected in the industry. And Writer's Digest. Yeah.
So is that agent still your agent?
Yeah, she still is. Yeah. We signed to almost 8 years now. Yeah.
Well, so I think that that's just a really important point, and one that the whole point of what we're doing right here is to give other women in aviation sort of the lessons that we learned along the way as writers and aspiring writers, and maybe speed that track for them. And for me, I had a book idea. I did NaNoWriMo. I wrote the book. It was garbage. I knew it. And that was when I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. Where do I go? And it was, after I had written my first draft that I discovered what SCBWI was. It also speaks to the value of going to those conferences and networking.
And yes, I do think there's something to meeting face to face, for sure.
Yeah. And then in those workshops, yes, you pay to do them, but there's a person there who is reading your work now. I mean, you have their undivided attention for however many pages you've submitted for that workshop. And if they like it, look what happened to you, and you hadn't even written the book yet.
And I was so afraid to go to that conference because I felt so inadequate. I knew no one in the room. But, I came across a quote that says, life expands in proportion to one's courage. Like the week before I turned my money in, and I'm like, okay. And look, who knows if any of this would have happened had I not, gone for it. Or maybe it would be delayed, or maybe different books. I don't know. But I just thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I'm so glad I did.
I'm so glad you did too. That's a great story. So what does your writing life look like now? What's a typical day for you?
Running kids to school, getting my coffee. I try to not look at my inbox and try to write 500 words. I used to be able to do more before the pandemic, but then I'm not gonna lie, I had about a year that I couldn't read, or I was stuck on chapter 1 for 15 months. I could not stop scrolling the news. And so that's why I'm just had to kind of cut myself off from.
Detox.
Yes, absolutely. We've been through a lot,
Yep.
And of course I had all 5 kids move back home, all Zooming in different rooms. Our bandwidth was just non-existent, So, but anyway, all to say, I feel like I'm kind of getting my groove back. I've had a couple projects that I've kind of squeaked out proposals for that haven't gone anywhere. So that's kind of been a big bummer after a year of not doing a lot. And when I finally get the courage to put pen to paper again, and then I was like, okay, this needs a rewrite, before someone can seriously consider it. But, that's part of the writer's journey. Everyone faces rejection, no matter how many books you have out there. Things still get rejected. Things still need to be rewritten. So that's where I am right now, just trying to write in the cracks. Sometimes I write on my phone while I'm waiting to pick my daughter up from sports. If I don't have any paper hand me, I keep a little, what's called Bear. I don't know, just one of those note apps on your phone that I just constantly add to, if it's a few lines of dialogue or an idea for a new picture book. Sometimes my family gripes at me for being on my phone too much, but I want to say, but I'm really working.
I'm working.
It's my notes app.
Well, that's a clever way to do it because you always have it with you.
And it tricks my brain. It doesn't feel like work as much for some reason if I'm not in front of, a big screen. It feels more like texting a friend. So,
What's the app that you're using? It's Bear?
it's called Bear. It's just
Okay.
open, just kind of like you can make a to-do list or anything. And I have about 60 different files on there. It's just empty space and you can just kind of type away.
And then when you're ready to get to serious work on it, you just pull out what you
Yeah.
jotted down.
Or
I
you
love
can
that.
send it to email or whatever. Yeah.
I am still an analog girl. I carry around a bullet journal.
Yeah. No,
But-
I have one of those too. They're awesome. Yeah.
because things like in the ether, they're just gone.
Mhm.
Whereas I can flip a page open and it's there. So
Yeah. No, I totally get that too. And also just the tactile satisfaction of crossing through things. I'm very big about, as my word count grows, writing that, where I ended for the day and marking it through. I don't know.
yep.
Any
Oh, me
little-
too. Well, I mean, it's the tricks that you play because it's so abstract.
Mhm.
When it's gone, you do all this work. If you're painting a painting, you can see the progress all in front of you, because I do a little painting too. But this
Okay,
has been really hard for me as a discipline because, I'm an instant gratification girl. I was flying search and rescue, and you as a nurse, like your patient is in front of you. You can see their progress. You can see the effect that you're having on them instantly. You're writing a book, it's just like, is it growing? Am I getting anywhere? So I do the same thing. I play tricks with myself. I use the Forest app to grow
Yes.
trees and do like Pomodoro sprints,
Yeah.
work sprints. And then I use my bullet journal to do, like when I'm really in a mode of like producing words, I do the same thing. I write my words down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, isn't that funny? All these little hacks, but
You got to play the games with yourself to see, however in your brain you can quantify your progress. And for
Right.
me, it's seeing those things. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Something that I needed. So tell me a little bit about, so you already had an agent for Amelia Six, and they sold it. Who's the publisher?
Simon and Schuster, Paula Wiseman books.
Simon & Schuster, good job. That's great. So just tell me about that process for you. Is your agent an editorial agent? And then you already talked about, needing to do the changes to the mother relationship and that kind of stuff. But yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, my agent is editorial. This, so it's the same. I had the same editor for Amelia Six that I had for this. Bologna BB Takes Charge. So for Bologna BB Takes Charge, I had the whole novel draft that was shopped around, and Simon and Schuster bought it. But for they had it's called an option clause, which I'm sure you know about that. They kind of get first right of refusal if you write in the same genre or age group category. And so I pitched a proposal for this. So it was a synopsis in 3 chapters. So they bought it, but which, yay, awesome. But I will say it's a whole different kind of pressure writing. It's a good problem to have, but it's a whole different level of pressure trying to finish a draft. It's already contracted and you don't know if it's working or not, you know.
Yeah.
So I did have about 3 goes of big picture edits on this one, because it was so, I'd never written a mystery before, for one thing, and I felt like I was in a crash course, you know, while I was already under a contract. But anyway, some people swear they'll never do it again. They want to have the whole thing out first and out of their head the way they can envision it, and then try to sell it that way. So there's pros and cons, I think, to both. I mean, that is nice that the pressure's not there, but yet also you can spend a whole year drafting something not knowing if anyone wants it, which, yes, we're supposed to write for ourselves, right? But you also need to pay bills. So it's kind of a catch-22.
I'm not there with the books yet, but experiencing that for the first time with magazine articles. Any that I have written before have been, I knew I had a full concept of what I was going to write. I had an outline and I was ready to go. And now I'm operating on deadlines for sort of more abstract, like I have a monthly column that I'm writing and so I have deadlines, but I don't necessarily have all the ideas sketched out yet. So it's a different kind of pressure.
That would be difficult, but it's an awesome problem to have. But yeah, that would be a lot of pressure every month having to. And what's your word count for those?
That one's short, thankfully, and it's just about books. So I like the kind of thing that I'm doing here, I'll be doing for the Aviation for Women magazine, basically, you know, coming up with sort of a theme for the month and talking about certain books to highlight. So that's the good thing. I mean, is that you can use a little bit of the blurb to fill in the cracks. But that I have another article about a woman in aviation that is due on Monday that I have not started.
Yeah, I know.
I kind of have the sketch. If I have it tomorrow, that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah. No, but I'm the same way, especially if a deadline's looming and things. Then I have a big month-long calendar. Things start getting the axe, you know. Even showers sometimes, you know.
Exactly.
Like I'll have to wash my hair on Tuesday.
So tell me a little bit about book promotion. This has been really fascinating to me to hear all the different perspectives and the different ways in which publishers are or are not supporting book promotion. So tell me about your experience.
It's been very strange because of COVID. The Amelia Six was my first book that I was actually going to be sent places by my publisher. The other books, you know, I arranged my own book tour, you know, mini book tours, whatnot. And so that was a big bummer. But Zoom's been great. Like being able to talk with you, Liz, and other, you know, in the little bookshops or book clubs like yourselves and schools. In some ways, I've been able to travel, you know, more than before. But I know everyone's getting a little bit of Zoom fatigue too. So that's been, or sometimes there's just so many events. Like I want to try to be a good friend and make other friends events. And sometimes there's just there's so many. But I think the internet and social media, again, I try not to be on there too much because I really can fall down a rabbit hole. Not as much, sometimes shopping, but mainly it's the scientists and the researchers. I just follow down this huge research hole, and then 2 hours go by because it feels like research. I mean, some of it is research, but it's just people can chronicle their day. There's the whole aviation community on there is just fascinating, and you can follow.
I'm guessing for the age group that you're writing, you're not on TikTok.
No, I'm not. And
I got on TikTok, and you want to talk about a rabbit hole. For sure. Because of course, with my interests, I have all all the aviation stuff. So there are like flight students who are doing these great little skits about learning to fly.
Oh,
There are all these videos about flying. And then I have my military stuff, and there are all these clowns just have all kinds of military jokes, and I can get lost in there forever. So yeah, it's a huge time suck if you let it.
I wish, is there a way to group, because all my people that I follow like that are all jumbled up together. Like, I wish there was a way I can group, my Mars rover scientists here, or my, my aviation people here, or I don't know, that would maybe help organize my brain a little bit, but yeah, but anyway, back to promotion. Just popping it now that things are opening up again. I've been just popping into my close independent bookstores. We've had 2 new ones crop up, which is really happy and awesome, especially during the pandemic. So introducing myself to them, and just trying to use social media as much as I can, and just connecting with other book people. That's the most fun part, honestly.
How has being a published author affected your life?
I kind of laughed at this, because then not a lot in a lot of ways. In fact, right before our call, I actually had to pull a dead rodent out from under my stove. So I'm like, awesome, my kitchen stinks. What is that? But in other ways, my friend group has absolutely expanded. I've learned so much, met so many interesting, fabulous, smart, articulate people that I would just be really crushed to ever have to leave the industry. It's, even as hard as the business side gets, it's the people that keep me here, and the kids. And the kids are amazing. The readers are amazing and smart and brilliant and funny and inspiring. But it's the people I've met along the way, and just how we are all helping each other and learn from each other, and everyone has something to offer if we just sit and listen. And I think, and most people are genuinely want to be helpful, like, the caretaker at the museum, the scientists I've met at NASA. People really do want to help, and share their stories.
So what advice do you have for anyone who is considering writing for children and young adults? And I also wanted to ask you if you have any favorite craft books that helped you along the way.
Oh, good question. Craft books, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, which is a big one. Story by Robert McKee. He's actually screenwriters. I've learned so much by studying screenwriting as far as plot. Plotting is very difficult for me. I am a about some things in my life, but I think it's my research brain that I love. I can get focused on tiny little nuggets of really cool facts, and then zero in on that and not see the whole big picture. So the book Story and studying movies and film have actually been really helpful to me as far as plotting. There was one more I was going to say.
While you're looking for it, I will just say that in that vein, I really like Save the Cat Writes a Novel too.
Yes,
I use
that's
that a lot
really good too.
For story structure.
Yeah, and then let's see, Writing Picture Books by Anne Whitford Paul.
I have that on my shelf. Yeah.
If you're wanting to write for the younger, but yes, absolutely, Save the Cat I loved. And this one for kids, Dear Genius by Ursula Nordstrom. She's the editor that signed E.B. White, and anyway, lots of great classics. And it's basically their letters back and forth, but it's a hug of a book. And you learn a lot about the editorial process. I don't know, as you're reading, but it's one of those good, just keep by your nightstand. If you're down in the dumps, just pick it up and read a few pages, and it's just really uplifting and funny. She's really funny to boot.
Those are great recommendations. And how about your advice for aspiring writers?
Oh, read as much as you can, everything you can, write as much as you can, carry a journal keep your eyes and ears open, pay attention to the world around you. Nothing is too small to be included in a story. But most importantly, your story matters, and only you can tell it the way you can. Yeah.
Awesome advice. Kristin, thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and thanks for sharing your story. And again, thanks for the Amelia Six. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it.